Chapter 1.2 Native American Societies Before European Contact. In the last chapter, we met three worlds. Now, we zoom into one of them, the Americas, and the peoples living across North America before Europeans arrived. The big lesson here is simple but powerful. The land they lived on shaped the lives they built. Let's see how. Here's the big idea, and it's the thread through the whole chapter. Environment shaped society. North America was huge and varied. Deserts, forests, coasts, plains. And so were its peoples. Hundreds of distinct cultures, hundreds of languages. The key word for the exam is adaptation. Each society fit itself to its surroundings. They weren't primitive, and they weren't all the same. Complexity grew wherever resources allowed. So as we tour the regions, keep asking one question. How did this land shape this people? That's key concept 1.1 in action. Before the tour, meet the single biggest game changer, maize, corn. It was first domesticated in Mexico and spread slowly northward over centuries. Here's why it matters. Maize created food surpluses. Surpluses let people stop wandering and settle in permanent villages. Settled, well-fed populations grew larger and built more complex social and economic structures, especially across the American Southwest. Wherever corn went, society changed. Keep that chain in mind. Maize. Surplus, villages, complexity. Let's get the big picture first. 5 broad regions, 5 ways of life. In the arid Southwest, people irrigated and farmed maize in adobe villages. Across the dry Great Basin and plains, harsh conditions kept groups mobile, hunting, including bison, on foot, since there were no horses yet. Along the mild, resource-rich Pacific coasts, food is so abundant that people built permanent villages without farming. In the forested eastern woodlands, they farmed the Three Sisters and hunted. And in the fertile Mississippi Valley, they built true cities around earthen mounds. Now let's take them one by one. Region 1, the Southwest. Think present-day Arizona and New Mexico. The land was dry, so people became water engineers, digging irrigation canals and building small dams to grow crops in the desert. Groups like the ancestral Puebloans and the Hohokam farmed maize, beans, and squash and lived in permanent adobe and stone dwellings. Some, famously, built right into cliffs. None of this works without maize spreading up from Mexico. Their descendants include today's Pueblo peoples, like the Hopi and Zuni. The lesson: a harsh, dry land actually drove innovation. Region 2, the Great Basin and the Western Great Plains. Here, the environment was harsh and dry, and food was scarce and scattered. The smart adaptation was mobility. People lived in small kinship bands and moved with the resources rather than settling down. On the plains, that meant hunting bison. And remember, this is before the Spanish reintroduced the horse, so they hunted on foot. In the Great Basin, peoples like the Ute, Shoshone, Ten, and Paiute foraged across wide territories. A few river valleys could support small farming villages, but the headline is movement. Harsh land. Keep moving. Region 3, the Pacific Northwest and California, and this one's a favorite exam twist. These coasts were so rich in food, salmon, fish, game, and acorns, that people built large, permanent villages without farming at all. In the Northwest, peoples like the Chinook and Haida built cedar plank houses, carved totem poles, and held elaborate gift-giving feasts called potlatches. In California, the Chumash and Pomo lived in dense, diverse communities built around acorns. The key idea: abundance, not agriculture, allowed settled life, along with wealth, social rank, and remarkable art. Region 4, the Eastern Woodlands, from the northeast down through the southeast. Fertile soil and plenty of rain made this ideal country for mixing farming with hunting and fishing. Their signature crop system was the three sisters: maize, beans, and squash, grown together. In the northeast, the Iroquois-speaking peoples, who call themselves the Haudenosaunee, lived in long, bark-covered longhouses organized by matrilineal clans. In fact, many, though not all, Eastern Woodlands societies were matrilineal, meaning descent and property passed through the mother's line. These were settled, productive village societies. Region 5, the Mississippi River Valley, home of the Mississippian culture. On these fertile floodplains, maize farming supported something remarkable: true cities. The Mississippians built enormous earthen mounds topped with temples and the homes of leaders. Their greatest center, Cahokia, near present-day St. Louis, may have held between 10 and 30,000 people at its peak. Larger than London at the same moment in history, it was the biggest city north of Mexico and a hub of trade reaching across the continent. And here's the key point: Cahokia rose and declined centuries before Europeans ever set foot here. Let's pause on that farming system, because the exam loves it. The Three Sisters. It's a brilliant piece of companion planting. The maize grows tall and gives the beans a living pole to climb. The beans pull nitrogen into the soil, fertilizing all three plants. And the squash spreads its broad leaves across the ground, trapping moisture and crowding out weeds. Grown together, they support each other, and eaten together, they form a nearly complete diet. Corn, beans, squash. Three sisters, one system. One myth to bust: that these societies were isolated. They weren't. Native North America was laced with far-reaching trade networks. Goods moved astonishing distances. Turquoise from the southwest, copper from the Great Lakes, seashells from the coasts, obsidian from the mountains. Cahokia sat at the heart of a continental exchange, and along those same routes travelled ideas and crops. Maize itself spread that way. So the picture is diversity and connection at the same time. Different peoples linked by trade long before any European arrived. Finally, how were these societies organized? In every way you can imagine. From small, mobile bands, to settled villages, to chiefdoms, to full political confederacies. Labour was often divided by gender. In many farming societies, women tended the crops while men hunted and fished. And because a number of Eastern Woodlands peoples were matrilineal, women could hold real influence over property and leadership. The Iroquois, or Haudenosaunee, united several nations under a single governing council, a sophisticated alliance that later impressed European colonists. In the Mississippian South, by contrast, power concentrated in strong chiefs. Diversity again, even in politics. Let's lock this to what the College Board actually asks. Key Concept 1.1. As people migrated and settled across North America, they built diverse and increasingly complex societies by adapting to and transforming their varied environments. And your specific job in Topic 1.2 is to explain how and why different native peoples interacted with and reshaped their natural environment. Notice the verbs: adapt and transform. People didn't just survive their surroundings, they changed them with irrigation, fields, and even cities. In theme turns, this chapter is dominated by geography and the environment. That's the star. But you'll also see migration and settlement as people spread and put down roots. Work, exchange, and technology in farming and trade. Social structures in matrilineal clans and chiefdoms. And American and regional culture in the sheer diversity of peoples. When you write, tag your evidence to one of these. It instantly makes your argument sharper. 2 reasoning skills to train here. First, causation. The environment caused different ways of life. A dry southwest caused irrigation. A food-rich northwest caused permanent towns without farming. Get comfortable saying because. Second, comparison. Putting regions side by side is a classic exam prompt. Why did people settle down here but stay mobile there? Practice explaining the difference. Master causation and comparison now, and you'll use them all year. Time to lock it in. Screenshot this slide. 1. Environment shapes society. The whole chapter in 3 words. Land first, lifestyle follows. 2. CBS, like the network. Corn, beans, squash. The 3 sisters that feed and fertilize each other. 3. Rich land equals stay. Harsh land equals roam. Abundance built permanent villages. Scarcity kept people moving. And 4. Salmon without seeds. The Pacific Northwest built whole towns with no farming, because the fishing was that good. 4 hooks, and you've got the chapter. 60-second recap. 1. Environment shaped society. A diverse land produced diverse, complex peoples. And that's key concept 1.1. 2. Maize spread north from Mexico, creating surpluses that built permanent, larger societies. 3. The Southwest irrigated. The Great Basin and Plains stayed mobile, and the Pacific Northwest thrived on salmon. 4. The Eastern Woodlands farmed the 3 sisters, while the Mississippians built Cahokia, bigger than London. And 5. Native America was both diverse and connected by trade. Never one single people, and never empty land. Lock it in. That's Chapter 1.2. Next up, Chapter 1.3. European Exploration in the Americas, where the 3 worlds finally collide, and we follow why Europe sailed and who led the way. If this made the material click, subscribe so you don't miss a chapter on your road to a 5. See you in the next one.